Few shows take you on a roller coaster ride quite like Oshi No Ko. It has had some scenes that I'll not forget quickly. As great as those moments have been, there was also the first half of season 2, which was just boring. I get what it was trying to do, but introducing so many new characters at once made it feel like no one was ultimately important, and it was slow. But let me tell you, pacing is not an issue now. Case in point, I decided to cover the character journey of Kana Arima over the last couple of episodes, but Oshi No Ko has already decided her spotlight lasted long enough and hit us with the truck that is episode 7. Yep. But you know what, I am still going to talk about Kana. I would argue that Oshi No Ko, at its absolute best, is not these overly bombastic cliffhangers. It actually is when the show dedicates time to its individual characters, allowing them to experience a conflict and find some sort of resolution across enough time that she really feels said character being tested. A great example is the very first episode of the series. It gave us a whole 90 minutes to establish the legendary Ai Hoshino as an idol and person, leaving a lasting legacy not just on Aqua and Ruby, but the whole world in the show. If you look back at episode 1, the most important factor to its quality is that there's time to build substance, which is ultimately what gives the drama weight. I would argue the next best example of this is the episodes that focus on Kana in season 3, because the show had been treating her in a way that felt two-dimensional for the longest time, allowing the fact that she is down bad for Aqua to basically dominate her screen presence. But this seismically shifted in an empowering way, and it was surprising. I would argue Kana is one of the best characters in the show. She is not superhuman like you could argue is the case for Aqua and Ruby. Perhaps she is what could be described as a diamond in the rough. Kana is incredibly witty, cute, and a great performer, but what these episodes do is prey on her situational weaknesses to brutally test her, and I think she reclaimed her crown in the process as someone who owns every aspect of who they are. This whole ordeal begins with Kana's growing dissatisfaction, being more idol than actor, questioning her own identity as an entertainer. As a result, she decides to take things into her own hands to try and proactively land a new gig. Her old industry contact puts her through to a director that might be able to use Kana in a project. And I mean, he is up and coming, he seems to be somewhat legitimate at first glance. But then of course he takes her back to his studio apartment, which has a bed, and well, as you know, you get an uncomfortable scene that somehow ends with Kana talking smack about Aqua. But more importantly, as she leaves the apartment, she is photographed by a scoop journalist. Oh, and the acquaintance that introduced her had ulterior motives and basically knew this would happen. So, Arima tries to do things her own way, gets backstabbed, and faces the predatory depravity of Japan's entertainment industry. However, the show is not just letting the audience feel bad for Kana while this is happening. It is pretty obvious that a bad situation is gradually approaching. That was likely preventable. She really should have asked the others, seen that this director had so many red flags, and taken better precautions on who to trust in the first place. Yes, it is easy to pick up on these as a viewer, but do you know why that is? Because we recognize the fundamental psychology of being pushed into a corner. Kana's actions are a sum of negative pressures that clouded her mental state. When you feel trapped, overwhelmed, and especially in Kana's situation, fading from relevancy, you do things that, in hindsight, are poor decisions. But in the aftermath of this, things get worse, and you witness the brutal impact of what comes next. When this photo is presented to Ichigo Productions, the false story of a scandalous looking image far outweighs what Kana actually did. In one word, it is unfair. When the reporter approaches her and asks about her relationship with the director, it is like scraping a chalkboard. It unpleasantly hits how much of a mess this is. Kana knows that she hasn't done anything disreputable, but the sad thing is it doesn't really matter. This is a dog-eats-dog world, and people don't care about the individual when they have the upper hand. Knowing that pushes Kana to a dangerous breaking point. The worst possible outcomes fly through her head, a crushing feeling that one simple mistake has destroyed you with no way to undo it. Questioning yourself at 100 miles per hour to end up with an almost self-gaslighting. What will happen to B. Komachi?
周りに迷惑かけて平気なんだ。
How will others suffer? The way your mind unravels in such a situation is presented so well here.
売春詐欺師風俗嬢。
早くやめろ、視界に入れたくない。
今頃男によしよしされてるよ。アイドルなら最後まで。
A combination of visual darkness and Kana's mind projecting itself to the viewer. It is tragic to see anyone like this, especially someone we root for like Kana. Ending up in a baseball court, she sits down and tries to process where to go from here. Not knowing what to do, feeling defeated, Kana has the natural physical response to cry. But then...
かわいそうなヒロインぶって自分を慰めてる。こびてこびて誰かに許しを請うて。
She pulls from within herself and decides to own it. At a moment when she was almost reduced to nothing, she recognized that she is better than this. Who cares about the fans that will react like this is the end of the world? I hate them anyway. Call me a slut. I don't give a fuck, you know? I am going to be me because I am best when I am my true self. And you know what? It's not like I haven't had to deal with this bullshit before. I really respect that Kana came to this conclusion completely on her own intuition. She does call out for help, even going back to directing that at Aqua, but that seems to trigger Kana recognizing it's not needed. She is strong enough to handle it on her own. Now, I know episode 7 means that she didn't ultimately have to. I guess Aqua does save the day again. But I do think this moment, when Kana goes to turn on the TV to see the news, expecting the worst, she freezes up just before. And these spikes jolt out towards her. Like, doesn't that capture the feeling of dread so accurately? Also, she did press the button. She was anxious but ready. She was prepared to accept the outcome and to keep going on, using her sparkling personality to show nothing can stop her. This is what makes her so damn good.
私は私のままこの芸能界を生き延びてみせるから。
I agree, Kana. Never stop being you, because I think we get a much better character as a result. To Oshi No Ko, thank you for putting in the time to allow that to shine through once again. I have been Russ, and be sure to have a great night or day.